It's the top of the hour, 2 p.m. Central African time. Here are your day's leading stories on this election day. Amnesty International South Africa is calling on the IEC to investigate the brief arrest of Newzroom Afrika journalist Ziniko Mhlaba while reporting at a polling station. The IEC says it's investigating ballot box stuffing, among other incidents. This is despite 99% of the more than 23,000 voting stations opening on time for the local government poll. And former President Jacob Zuma cast his ballot near his home in Kandla while out of jail on medical parole. And people are taking advantage of longer hours at Home Affairs to collect ID documents and to get temporary documentation to allow them to vote. We take you now to Seshego. What you are seeing are live visuals coming out of Seshego in Limpopo, where the EFF leader Julius Malema has not only arrived but has just cast his vote at Mponegele Primary School in Limpopo Province. Our reporter Pilani Bakhadi is there, and we will be joining him to get an update as to how things are going on the ground in Seshego. It has been a bit of a wait, but Julius Malema seems to have already cast his vote. We'll touch base with our reporter Pilani Bakhadi in just a moment. But for now, we take you to the Rock, where the IEC has just wrapped up a media conference. This is at the Results Operations Center, and they were updating the nation on how voting has been progressing so far for the local government elections. Our senior politics reporter Ziyanda Ngobo is there and joins us now. Ngobo, a very good afternoon to you. A highlight of some of the key issues that were touched on in this briefing.
Well, certainly a positive progress report given by the IEC this afternoon, saying that 99% of the voting stations across the country were able to open on time and allow the voters to begin with the process of making their voices heard. Highlighting also, Tami, some of the incidents in the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. 20 voting stations in Camperdown were unable to open due to community protests. Now, this is not something new, because over the weekend when the special voting took place, it was the same area in Camperdown that was facing issues over the rightful traditional leadership in that area.
Just for a moment, we will certainly be coming back to you. We're rushing back to Seshego, where Julius Malema is addressing the media.
South Africans have heard the message of the EFF and they received it very well. And we can only hope for the best. It's now in the hands of South Africans. The youth of South Africa must come out in their numbers, because this has got to do with them. This is about the future. This is about investing in the infrastructure and service delivery in our own localities. And the youth must be in the forefront of such fight. So I hope that wherever our young people are readying themselves to make sure that we close on a high note. I'm happy with the turnout of old people, and we need the youth to come out in their numbers.
Pretoria News. What did you do differently this time?
We are having structures all over South Africa, branches of the EFF properly constituted. We have candidates of the EFF chosen by the branches of the EFF in very peaceful meetings. And therefore, we have managed to cover the ground we have not covered in 2014, 2016, and 2019. So that's what gives us confidence.
Again, I see in 2016, the issue was the low turnout vote, the voter turnout, of course, was quite low, even in this, 57%.
Yes.
But I'm sure, in your words, over the last 5 years or so, have you seen a significant improvement in the interest of politics by young people?
At some point I thought there was apathy, but the rallies of the EFF have actually changed my perception with regard to voter apathy amongst young people. I think the youth is highly interested, and they are going to come out in their numbers. I think they've now realized that they cannot leave it in the hands of their parents only. They too have to take an active part if they want to see changes. So I think there is no youth apathy. I think the youth are more interested, and we're going to get them.
There was an altercation just now as you were standing in line.
Yes.
When some of your supporters were singing. Do you have any comment?
No, there was no altercation. The guy said they can't sing inside the voting station, and he was correct. You can't sing inside the voting station. So that's why they quickly kept quiet and they moved away. So when a person goes crazy alone, it can't be called an altercation, because an altercation must involve more than one person. So
that's our reporter Pilani Pakhadi, who is out in Seshego. We'll try and get you back there in just a moment. We were talking to our senior politics reporter Ziyanda Ngobo. She's out at the Results Operations Center where the IEC just gave a briefing. Ziyanda, as we touch back base with you, once again, apologies for that abrupt interruption. But if you could update us on some of the key issues that were discussed and how the elections are transpiring so far, according to the IEC.
Well, 3.5 million South Africans as of 12:30 this afternoon have gone out to their various voting stations and cast their votes. The IEC says that it's unfortunately unable to give us a comparative analysis as to, by the time it was 12:30 during the 2016 local government elections, how many people had voted at that particular point in time. But let's just go back then, Tami, and listen to what Glenn Mashinini had to say earlier on with regards to how this morning's voting got underway.
The Electoral Commission is very, very pleased to report that over 99% of the 23,148 voting stations opened on time to kickstart voting in the 2021 municipal elections. The Commission commends South Africans for coming out in their large numbers so early in the morning and as they continue to come to the voting stations in their huge numbers. The Electoral Commission regrets the arrest of Newzroom Afrika journalists at a voting station in Soweto. After intervention of the Commission, the journalist has been released and an investigation into the circumstances of that arrest will be instituted.
That was our reporter, Ziyanda Ngobo, who has been at the Results Operations Center. One of the other issues, Ziyanda, that was discussed were some ballot boxes and some inconsistencies and irregularities there. Give us some highlights on that.
Certainly, I mean, more than one question coming from journalists regarding the stuffing of ballot papers. There was an incident in KwaZulu-Natal where a presiding officer was arrested in that regard. But another issue related to ballot papers is there was a journalist that asked about ballot papers running out at voting stations, and Simon Mabulu responding there to say, well, actually, that should not be the case, because if 300 people, for an example, were registered to vote at a particular voting station, 300 ballot papers would have been delivered to that particular voting station. So I think the main concern at this particular point in time has been around security, has been around the management then of the boxes before, the voting takes place and after, because Mashinini did also share that that officer in KwaZulu-Natal was arrested, was accused of opening an already sealed box box after the votes had actually been undertaken. Another issue, I suppose, or a flag point that was raised by the IEC to the IEC, I should say, is with regards to those voting stations that couldn't open on time. I've already mentioned 20 in KwaZulu-Natal did not open on time, 19 in the Eastern Cape, both as a result of community protests. They say that all those voting stations have been opened with the assistance of law enforcement authorities, and they will assess if there is a serious need at those particular stations to extend then the voting hours for those particular areas.
There have been issues, Ziyanda, where some of the voters were actually turned back from voting stations because they were wearing party regalia. What is the situation regarding that? What should those voters do?
It's a very important message, in fact, that the IEC chairperson was sending out, saying it is not illegal for voters to wear political party regalia. It's more than allowed. It's within the law, and so nobody should be turned away or denied their right to vote at a particular station if they're wearing regalia of their political party. It's only the actual political parties themselves and the campaigning that they're not allowed to do inside the actual voting station. So he also shared a number that citizens who may have been turned back from particular voting stations to contact if they face such an issue, because they would need to troubleshoot that matter and be able to deal with it.
Thank you very much, Ziyanda Ngobo, coming to us from the Results Operations Center in Pretoria. The number that she's talking about is 0800 11 8000. That's 0800 11 8000. So if you are a voter and have experienced a situation where you were turned back from a voting station because you were wearing party regalia, and if after explaining to the officials there that you actually are allowed to wear, you're still experiencing problems, that's the number to dial, and the IEC will assist you in that regard. It's 0800 11 8000. Now, while a number of residents are taking advantage of the Home Affairs extended operating hours to process their identity documents, some say they will not be voting. Mandla Meselane says his back is against the wall. He was declared an illegal migrant without his knowledge, and now it's costing him with his ex. Our newsroom reporter, Nasipi Same, joins us live from Ekukuletu. Nasipi, as we touch base with you once again this afternoon, the issue of identity documents is a very sticky one, and we know that you cannot vote if you do not have your identity document. Talk us through the measures that are being put in place to ensure that as many South Africans are able to cast their ex.
Well, Tami, when we spoke about an hour ago, we were at the Home Affairs in Bellville and spoke to one particular lady who said that, following her losing her identity document, she has gone to Home Affairs after hearing the news that they will be allowed to actually get temporary ones. All that we understand is that she had to go to the police station in order for her to get an affidavit, and then that process is going to start. And she was saying that she is looking forward to obviously making that all-important X for the particular party that she wants to represent her and her ward in council for the next 5 years. But as you mentioned, we are in Guguletu. A number of people are excited to cast their votes. However, the gentleman that I'll be speaking to is not entirely happy because his back is against the wall, as you put it. He is not able to vote. A number of issues at play. However, even if he does go to Home Affairs, he will still not be assisted. Mandla, please, break down to